Welcome to Journey to Glow, the podcast that brings you natural and holistic solutions to heal your skin from the inside out, and transformative coaching to help you awaken your inner healer so you can feel empowered and inspired on your journey to glow. I'm your host, Caroline Frenette, and every week I'll interview leading experts in the field of holistic medicine, green beauty, and leaders in the wellness industry. I am here to disrupt the conversation about beauty and healing. I'm here to challenge old beliefs and the narratives that are keeping us stuck. I know how challenging it can be to love ourselves and the skin we're in when we don't love what we see in the mirror. So together, we'll explore how to make self-care and self-love an intricate part of your journey. It's time to take the healing process into your own hands. Welcome to Journey to Glow. It is such a pleasure and an honor to share with you an incredible conversation I had with someone that I immediately connected with, a soul sister on the same wavelength when it comes to sustainability, voting with our money, disrupting the market, and creating something new, spotting a need in the market and creating it because she, in the first place, really needed it. My guest is Teju Owoye. She is the founder of Clean Rebellion, a brand that I feel really deserves the spotlight for so many reasons, but the main reason is, again, because of Teju's mission to disrupt the market and to bring premium Castile soap. It sounds so simple, and yet, when Teju was younger, she had eczema, and she didn't realize that a lot of the harsh chemicals that she was using in her everyday life, like soap and harsh cleansers, were making her eczema worse. So Teju found a need in the market for premium and a pristine soap that wouldn't cause any skin reaction, that would actually feel moisturizing. And she took the ball and she ran with it and she launched this company. So you're going to hear her share that story. This is a podcast episode that's a little different than our usual conversation that focuses specifically on skin. And yet I feel that it's a conversation that we really need to have. It's a podcast interview that I'm really happy to feature and to share that conversation with you, because I think it's going to empower you to make changes in your everyday life when it comes to clean beauty, when it comes to looking at everything that's in your environment, the cleansers, the skincare. The level of toxicity in our home is staggering for many of us. Granted, I started doing some cleaning about 10 years ago, and I'm still finding deeper layers of things that I can improve. So there's always more to do. We don't have to do all the changes all at once. But this conversation is relevant because, as you know, if you have rosacea or acne or eczema or psoriasis, your bucket of toxins is probably overflowing. It's burdening your liver. It is damaging your gut. And ultimately, it's reflected on your skin. It's pretty simple, really. Like, the whole formula for clear skin is pretty simple. And if you go and you tackle one step at a time, starting very simply by cleaning up your bathroom counter or your bathroom shelves and, what's around your bathtub and your shower, you're going to make progress slowly but surely. And you're going to help your system. You're going to help your liver do its job better. So my big takeaways in this podcast episode were, first of all, how inspiring Teju's journey in creating Clean Rebellion was. Totally inspiring. She's a super smart woman, killer, kick-ass entrepreneur, and I'm so excited to see the future of Clean Rebellion. As I'm recording this, just a few weeks ago, I saw that she is now available at the Detox Market. I'm going to link it in the show notes. The Detox Market is one of my favorite places to shop online for clean beauty. Another big takeaway of this episode is how we need to be vocal to our local grocery store and even pharmacies, wherever you shop. If you're not finding what you're looking for, you need to walk up to the manager and make yourself be heard. If you don't have access to organic, high quality, fresh food that will not cause more harm to your body, because it's insane what we're finding in the grocery stores right now. It's packed with herbicides and pesticides and glyphosates. And it's time for a change, wouldn't you agree? So what you have to do is you walk up to the manager and you use your voice and you demand to have high quality foods and better quality, clean, non-toxic products. And lastly, we talked at length about the importance of voting with our dollars. If we stop buying these crappy products, well, these companies are going to go bankrupt, or maybe they're going to pivot and start to listen to their customers, which is something that Teju is definitely doing. Very excited to share this episode with you. I think you're going to find it inspiring on so many levels. If you have been feeling called for maybe a change in your life, maybe you have a project brewing, maybe you want to start a business, maybe you want to make a big change in your health so that you achieve your clear, glowing skin goals, this episode, even though it's not focused on skin specifically, will inspire you to make those changes. So let's jump into my conversation with Teju, founder of Clean Rebellion. Let me start recording because, of course, we have to jump in.
Exactly.
So waking up, you said that it's normal for you to wake up at 3 a.m. and you feel it's your circadian rhythm.
It is. And I noticed that it's worse when I don't get enough sunlight or vitamin D. So, vitamin D is really interesting, way to making sure you get enough vitamin D is really important to regulating your circadian rhythm.
I didn't know.
So really important. A lot of people don't know, especially too, that you actually absorb vitamin D. The best way is through your eyes. So I used to be the person that would walk around with huge sunglasses. And, what I started doing was going on, at least 20-minute walks in pure sunlight every single day. And I notice when I do that, it helps to regulate my sleep patterns, my circadian rhythm a lot more. When I don't do that, then I'm naturally a poor sleeper, and like sleep hygiene is something that is like one of my personal mountains to climb and to battle with. I notice when I don't do those pure sunlight walks, it's worse. Like I'm, like 3 a.m. I'm up. What do I need to do? I'm thinking, I'm, wanting to go on my phone and read stuff. And, so much what you were saying, then, after a couple of hours, I'm exhausted. So by 7, I'm done and I need to take a nap. So I'm like napping from 7 to 9 and then getting back up. And it's like the oddest, most, ridiculous sleep pattern ever.
Yeah, I hear you. And I'm trying not to, I have given up trying to do it perfectly or beating myself up. So what really helps, because in the past, I would go into this inner dialogue of, I'm not going to be productive today. I won't be able to do anything. I'm going to have to cancel my whole day. Like at 3 a.m., Teju, I was thinking about you and I was like, how am I going to show up? I don't want to cancel this. She's so busy. And then I'm like, you know what? Just go with the flow.
I know.
To not beat myself up is really helpful to still show up present. And because it's very tiring also to beat ourselves up.
It is.
It's really tiring.
Is. It's mental warfare. And I'm so glad that you were vulnerable and shared that, because I go through the same thing. It's, you want to show up perfect and on point and coiffed and prepared and, all of these things. And that also causes that mental spin. Yeah. And one of the things that I've been trying to exercise in, as you said, imperfectly, I love imperfect. I think that we need to embrace imperfect way more, especially with this pandemic. Like we've all seen how, at the end of the day, everyone's trying to do their best with the tools that they have. And I firmly
Yeah.
believe that and preach that all the time. But knowing that imperfect is fine. And sometimes imperfect is beautiful. I think imperfect is beautiful
Oh, yeah.
because we know that we're all humans. We all are coming from a diverse set of experiences with diverse tools. And, if you can really honor and, celebrate someone for showing up as they are, that to me is a gift to another human being versus, kind of imposing on them this idea that they need to be or to do, in certain ways. And I find myself in meetings more and more, like just honestly talking about, not in a way to burden, but just like, hey, what's going on with everyone? And I love the practice of doing a clearing at the beginning of meetings, because sometimes people are so stuck in their, you know, I don't have this done, or I'm worried about this or this, that, and the other, that just like simply giving people the space to clear that stuff at the beginning, then they can even shift into being, leaning into the meeting more, being more present, leading into the conversation more, which I think is so, so powerful.
What does it look like to do a clearing before a meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So I say, hey, literally I take 10 minutes before some meetings, especially with my team members, and we say, let's clear. And honestly, I stole this from, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. This is something that I learned back early in my career. I worked at Lululemon as an educator. And
Right.
they do clearings. And I was like, this is amazing. I never, I had come from big corporate in my career, like big health insurance, and I went through this period in my life where I was like, this is not what I want to do. Moved across the country. The first job I got out in San Diego was working at Lululemon. It was the best time of my life. And they had this practice of clearing. And it was the beginning of the meeting. Does anyone have anything that they want to clear? And I will never forget. So imagine coming from big corporate in a suit, tights, where everyone's positioning and, using corporate buzzwords, to being in this space where it's like, who wants to clear something? And people would bring up the wildest, most vulnerable, things like, you know what? I really didn't love how XYZ spoke to me earlier. And I just want to clear that it's bothering me. And, I think one of the things that's important in the practice of clearing is, instead of assigning blame, coming up with solutions. And what would really help me is if we X, Y, and Z. Um,
Love it.
First time this was ever done, I was blown away. I was like, oh my goodness, are you allowed to do this in a work setting?
I love it.
And I've adopted that practice with my team, so does anyone have anything to clear? But the rules and the guidelines are that it has to come from a place of, resolution, not blaming,
Yeah.
speaking authentically, but not in a way that's assigning blame. You need to take responsibility to how you react in situations.
Yeah.
You need to take responsibility to your own emotional triggers, and it's okay to acknowledge that, but to also give space for solutioning. And I think it just helps, especially if there's things that are preventing someone from showing up fully or being authentic in a meeting.
Was this clearing space landmark? Do you know about landmark
I
education?
do. I do know about Landmark. I actually haven't gone through Landmark.
Okay.
I went through a different program called MITT. So it's
Okay.
Mastery and Transformational Training.
Ooh.
People say it's similar to Landmark in terms of tenets and principles. MITT is a little bit of a longer program. So it's 5 days, best 5 days of my life. And I have to say, I went in skeptical. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know about this. I had put off it for years, like maybe 10 years of people talking about MITT and
Huh.
Landmark, both programs. I think you would like it. You have to try it. I'm like, I don't know about that. And, I'm into all the stuff. Like I've done all the stuff, but for
Yeah.
whatever reason, I had such resistance against Landmark and MITT. I was like, I don't know. I'm struggling. So anyway, last year, it was so weird. Two people had recommended it to me, like within the same week. Two entrepreneurs who I really respect and trust, and love what they've done in terms of building their business and career, how they have balance, the way that they approach life. And it's what, kind of the catalyst that pushed me over the edge. I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up for this. I'm going to, go into it with an open mind and open heart, and we'll see. So even though mentally I was saying this leading up until the day, there, total resistance. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I have time for this. I'm busy. I'm building this other company. I have my age, all this stuff. Like, I need to cancel this. I don't have time. Like, all the time scarcities, cues, even though the stuff I've worked on, like I fall victim to that all the time.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but showed up in the room and it was the most empowering. And it was actually the weekend that the pandemic, it was like March 13th. So when things were getting shut down in Los Angeles. And it was divine timing, to be honest. The
Ooh,
tool I walked out of from that room
I
helped
hear
me
that.
go through the pandemic in such a different way, than I think I could have ever without those tools and resources, the connections that we made. And a lot of the core tenets that they teach, I wish these were things that I had learned 20 years ago. Also I think for me, it's the language, so there's things that you intuitively know,
Yeah.
but there's power in being able to assign language to feelings and phenomenon. And, I think that what I loved from MITT was that I was, gifted with this new set of words and language to kind of describe things that had happened in my life. And it helped me to reframe and think about things really differently, which was incredibly powerful.
What kind of tools really stood out that you're still using now that you want to share with people? Because I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
everybody needs tools right now.
100%, 100%. I
Yeah.
think that one of the things that I really have practiced, especially during this time, is the whole process of just reframing your story. So one of the things that they teach and talk about, and you work on a ton, is this a whole concept of things just being neutral events, and it's up to you to assign meaning to them. And I know Tony Robbins talks about this too. There's other people in this space that talk about this, but
Yeah.
there was something about the way that it was presented. So we had a world-renowned psychologist who was leading our session, and kind of the way that he taught it kind of hit different this time is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And really for me, it's backing up and saying, okay, if I'm dealing with something or struggling with something, it's what is the meaning that I've actually assigned to this? The pandemic, what is the meaning that I'm assigning to this experience? And could you questioning that meaning, like, why have I assigned that meaning? Is there a different way to look at things? Is there a different way for me to actually show up? And then what are the kind of old habits and old programming that I'm holding on to that's informing the way that I'm reacting, that is actually counterproductive to my own well-being. So I think just taking those mindful pauses and thinking about the way that you're interpreting, and you realize that we all have a bajillion ways to interpret the same event. So you talk to two people, that
Yes.
the whole adage, there's story one, story two, and then there's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's realizing like what you think oftentimes, it's just a byproduct of your programming and your beliefs and stories and experiences, and that can be shifted. So I got into the habit of, especially during the pandemic, when I was kind of feeling, I went through some times where I was like just struggling, like I don't understand what's happening, and things are tough from a business perspective. Kind of going through this almost this mourning of life as it was. So actually getting into the practice of writing that down. I journal all the time, so writing those
Ooh.
things down and saying like, okay, what's another way to interpret this experience? How else can I think through this? And how else can I show up differently in this moment?
That is, I think, very smart to adopt. I feel the magic really is in the mindfulness.
Yes, yes,
Um, Sometimes I feel it's not even necessary to reframe or to rewrite the story, that the power again is so much in the mindfulness where you could experience detachment,
right.
moving from the personal to the impersonal. Like I always say this, and I know it doesn't make sense, especially if people don't see me, but I experience it as stepping back or dropping away from the drama. For me, drama is in front of me. My
Yes,
thinking is in front of me.
right.
Other people will experience it differently. And if I kind of fall back, I fall into my higher self or my inner
Yes.
wisdom.
Yes.
And I'm able to see clearer the story, the thought created story, the
Right.
thought, I can see the thoughts floating. Like I
Right.
literally, like, I see the energy floating. And even in that moment of being able to do that without rewriting a story, I'm able to notice what was being created from my thinking creating my feeling, and to experience freedom in the moment more quickly.
Right.
And then being able to shift, fresh new thinking comes, off I go into a new direction,
Right. I
and
love that.
feeling better in that moment. But I love that what you just shared, because yeah, everybody's experiencing different levels of difficulties. Some people way more than others. I got to say that
Yeah.
I feel pretty blessed to work from home. My neighbor the other day has a private school, and she has to go to school and
Right.
work with all
Right.
these children. And she came up to talk to me because she said, how you doing? I know you work from home already. Do you miss people? And I'm like, listen, I don't have to fucking wear a mask and
I know.
do all that bullshit. Do I miss crowds once in a while? Sure. Like, we can still enjoy outdoors and meet people and go walk together. But for me, I've been working from home for the longest time and my business is still running. I mean, not saying that I haven't felt the effects in some way or
Right.
another,
Right.
but I feel that, and I know that you have an entrepreneurial spirit. You built Clean Rebellion, and I want to talk more about this, but having the entrepreneurial spirit forces you to be creative, and it
Yes.
forces you to pivot, and it
Yes.
forces you. I was saying that to someone the other day that wants to collaborate with me, and I said, listen, you if we're going to do this together, like, you need to have the entrepreneurial spirit, because the shit's going to hit the fan, and challenges happen every day when you're an
Every
entrepreneur.
day. Every single day.
Always
If you
something.
always, there's always something. If you don't have something happening, then some, like you're not, I feel like something's amiss, because there's
Something's
always
coming.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. So having that entrepreneurial spirit, which is going to be different for everyone, and you
Yeah.
might not know this, but this is my full-time work. I'm a business coach, and I work with women
Right.
entrepreneurs, and that's my kind of conversation. But I feel that it applies even if you're not an entrepreneur, to
Yes.
have that inner directedness, inner creativity, the ability to find solutions instead of problems, pivot quickly.
Yes.
Don't take it
Yes.
personal. I
Yes.
mean, I really heard that, like the neutrality,
Yes.
which is,
Yes.
it can be challenging for
It
sure,
can be, for sure. For sure. For
but
sure.
feeling that and then pivoting. And how many people have been, I'd be surprised, and I'd be curious to see how many people have changed their lives for the better this year, having been forced to make a
100%.
change.
100%. And I
Yeah.
think that comes back to that, the concept of neutrality of events, but then two, I'm an advocate of having, healthy sense of curiosity. So I think
Mm.
curiosity is what's helped me throughout my life and career. So starting to get curious about things. And one of the biggest shifts for me was, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, was, okay, here we are in the face of, what can be perceived as restrictions, but how could I actually use this as a launch point to live my life in a completely different way? And I think about like pre-pandemic life, busy, going to events in LA, running, two businesses, this, that, like all of the, I'll call it manicness of my day to day suddenly subsided. And it gave me this rich opportunity to go on long walks. I would
Mm.
drive up to Santa Barbara by myself. So grateful that I have the opportunity to do this. But I was like, this is an opportunity for me to like go off of myself and go on these like I do these crazy walkabouts where I'll just like walk for 5 hours. And I'm so glad I have the, luxury to do that. Which pre-pandemic didn't have the time to do that. During the pandemic, my life slowed down in such a way where I was able to do that and actually hear myself speak. Hear my inner voice, my intuition. So, for me, it was, getting curious about how I could make the situation work and leverage it, and then saying, okay, what can I do? And from that came so many, different types of experiences that I would never have had, um, you know, had the pandemic not happened. So like being out in nature more,
Yeah.
Being able to, I connected with old friends that I hadn't heard from in a really long time. So all these like really cool things
Mm.
that I'm grateful for. And I do think that in many ways, my life has shifted, in a better way. It's hard to get to that point, of course, but I think that if you can stay curious, um, and ask the right questions of yourself, then you'll find the right solutions.
I love that. Absolutely. And that applies to our conversation on Journey to Glow, where
Yes.
we're looking for natural and holistic solution. We're exploring healing our skin naturally and holistically from the inside out. And I keep talking about the inner healer. And
Mm,
the inner healer is not the inner critic in our head, it's inner wisdom. And drives, what navigates inner wisdom or the inner compass would be that curiosity, that
right,
open curiosity, because one
right,
question leads to the next. It's actually how I built Journey to Glow. Literally, I had
right,
a crazy idea out of the blue
right,
because I already had a full time business as a coach. I didn't need to do that, but
right.
I was doing a group coaching program with my mentor, creating the impossible, quote
Mm,
unquote impossible. And out of the blue, I had an idea to heal rosacea, which seemed impossible back then. The time frame was 90 days.
right, right,
And just this open curiosity to try all of these different holistic modalities, my curiosity to learn more about Ayurveda and Chinese medicine and
right,
functional and then I started to learn so much. My fiance, was like, why don't you share that with people? And I was like, wait a minute. I'm an online business strategist. I know how to build an
right.
educational platform. But all these questions led me to where I am today. And I keep saying that if I was to stop Journey to Glow for any particular reason, I feel that I would have reached my goal already of creating a new
Mm,
conversation about skin, bringing possibility into this conversation, challenging old beliefs and old
right,
paradigms of what is
right,
curable and incurable. Like, that's not, nothing is incurable, especially not rosacea.
right,
I've
right,
spoken to so
right.
many women who I've healed. And again, like, to challenge this conversation, for me, the challenge, Teju, is that I have an inner warrior that wants to battle against big
Right,
pharma,
right, right,
who are
right.
dominating the market. And
Same.
here I am, this little, yes, here I am, this little voice.
Right.
And I'm thinking, more people need to know this.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
like everybody needs to know about clean rebellion. Like, we're going to get into your story right now. It's so funny, Teju, because just from your website, like when you first came on my radar, I was like, I think she's on to something. I think like, I have a
Thank
vision
you.
for you. Like, I don't know if I can say that on the podcast, but I see you on Shark Tank.
Thank you. I am humbled and honored.
And
Yes.
I hadn't even
Thank
spoken
you.
to you. And I was like, I don't know who this woman is.
Thank you.
But energetically, I was like, I think she's just gonna, and I have shivers. I don't know. I
Oh,
feel like you're
thank
just
you.
gonna
I am
dominate.
beyond touched. That means so much coming from you. You've worked with so
Oh,
many amazing entrepreneurs and interviewed. I love listening to your podcast, like all the amazing people that you've interviewed. So that means a ton. Thank you so, so much. Thank
oh
you.
my God. So when did you start Clean Rebellion?
Yes, it's been I would say like it's been a multi-year journey. So officially about 2.5, 3 years ago.
Okay.
So long story short, I battled with eczema, hormonal imbalances, and I've been on this wellness journey for probably about 15 years. I started my career in corporate wellness, building incentive programs for Fortune 500 companies and universities, and you know, had always been passionate about health and wellness, even from a young age. And especially my corporate wellness experience, it was great that we were developing these incentive programs linked to people's health insurance. So, walk and then you get a discount on your premiums and things like that. So, very surface level resolutions. And I have to say, I felt so hypocritical in that role. Like I struggled a ton from a authenticity perspective. So it was like, here I am telling these people working, in various big corporations, walk and, you're supposed to eat healthy and you get incentivized and it's on your insurance. However, the behaviors of some of these companies to their employees are the unhealthiest thing ever. How are you building a wellness program and, telling people, oh, you need to be healthy, you need to blah, blah, blah. But then you have like a huge candy bowl of processed junk, and that's the snack that you're giving to your employees. Like something here is not adding up to me. And I really, really struggled for a long time. So anyway, got out of corporate wellness, went into marketing, and kind of became my own, I would call it like biohacker. What are the things that help me feel good? What helps to balance my hormones? What can I do to get rid of my eczema? And what I didn't realize early on was that a lot of the food that I was eating, the products, and I was a big mainstream like designer products, like, oh, I love this body wash by XYZ designer and this and that and the other. Big box shops buying my, bath soaps and whatever it may be. Big consumer of that stuff. It smells great and it's pretty and it's cool and all that
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. That's how I kind of grew up. Didn't realize that those products were causing my eczema. So go to the doctor, and of course they give me topical steroids,
Yeah.
which fixes the problem on a surface level. But as we all know, skin conditions like eczema are a part of, you know, greater inflammatory gut issues, that are actually causing the eczema as a manifestation of deeper root cause issues.
Yeah.
Um, so as I got into, kind of changing really getting into being an informed consumer, of what I was putting on my body, and noticed like, wow, they're using parabens and BHA. Like there's all of this trash that I cannot even pronounce in
Yeah.
these cleansers. What is going on? And discovered Castile soap. I started off using Dr. Bronner's, which so many people know and use. And I love Bronner's as a product, but I struggled with like I was missing those like fun and floral and, kind of the things I would buy at big box retail shops.
Okay.
Wanted that in my soap. So I rolled up my sleeves about 2.5 years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago. And I started making soap in my kitchen, and friends would come over and be like, what is this glob that you you are cooking up? What are you doing? I think my neighbors thought I was like making illegal drugs or something, because I would run out with a beaker when you have to mix the potassium hydroxide and I would run out and mix them, with the beakers. And they were like, what is this chick doing? She is like so weird. And that's how I started it. I started in a crock pot in my kitchen, cooking up soap, scenting it myself, testing and trying. And, one of the things that, from early on, I love the healing properties of organic olive oil. So, what I wanted to do is come up with a soap that was just based on 100% organic olive oil. Some of the other
Mm.
soaps out there use cheaper oils like palm oil. Even
Yeah.
like they put in, coconut oil and other things, which actually are harsher from a pH perspective when you saponify them. So it was like, I want to use 100% organic olive oil, natural plant-based extracts versus perfumes. So some
Yeah.
soaps that are quote unquote natural actually use perfumes for their scenting,
Yes.
which we don't do. And I want the ingredients to feel energetically aligned. Someone to read the back of the bottle and say, I can pronounce all of this. I understand what this is. I know this is good for my skin. It's multi-use, but then also it makes me feel good just from the packaging, which is why we have positive affirmations on every package. As we were talking about the power of language, the language you use, can really shift your life. And for so many years in the beauty industry, we've heard, you're not enough. You need this product in order to fix this and to fix that. And you need to be fixed, 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 fixed. And one of the most important things for me, was making sure that even from the packaging, someone felt uplifted and,
Yeah.
they felt like they were enough. And so that's how it started, just in a crock pot in my kitchen, making soap.
That's the entrepreneur. That's the
Yeah.
entrepreneur. You want something, you can't find it. Damn it, I'm gonna have to create it.
Yep, exactly. I had no business. And that's the funny thing. I had no business creating a soap company, no business at all, as anyone would say. I was running a marketing agency, had been in tech for a long time, working with app and SaaS, software as a service companies. So it was funny at the beginning, there was that imposter syndrome voice of like, what are you doing? Why are you, like, what are you doing? You don't come from a line of soap makers in your family, or like, what are you doing and
Right.
why are you trying to do this? But what kept me going was I just love the product so much.
Yes.
I loved using it every day. And as I shared it with people, they loved using it and,
Yeah.
gave me such great feedback. And that's what kept me going. It was like, if I can create something that helps people in a positive way, like, isn't that what entrepreneurship is all about?
Yep.
And to be a continuous learner, even though it's not my native industry, um, health is my north. Helping people live healthier in a way that is easy for them has always been my North Star throughout my career. So
Yeah.
this is just a different manifestation of that in a product.
Oh, yes, I totally hear that. And aren't the best businesses created because someone followed their intuition? They
Yes.
dared to take the step, even though it made no sense. That's how intuition works. She's going
Yeah.
to tell you to do something, and it's not going to make sense. But if you question it, you stop the creation, you're done.
Right.
If
Right.
you don't question it and instead you apply what you were saying, this open curiosity, then a new path appears and you follow the steps, and then you turn around 2 years and a half later and you have a soap business.
Yes, exactly. That's pretty much that's pretty much what happened. And it's not to say there weren't those times where I was like, wait, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? My friends in my family will say, they're like, there was many times in the development of Clean Rebellion, I was like, wait, what is actually happening? Like, what am I?
Yeah.
And I think all entrepreneurs have that. You get in the middle of something, and I think Seth Godin talks about the dip. You go through this dip where you're like questioning your life, you're questioning what you're doing, everything seems challenging.
Yes.
Um, and for me, it was a steep learning curve to get into how do you bring a consumer packaged good to the marketplace. I'd always been on the other end, finished product, and I market it. So there was just a ton of learning and challenges along the way, especially when it came to integrity of ingredients. There was a lot of shortcuts that could have been taken that would have made production easier,
Yeah.
made shelf life longer. And I remember getting into some really heated conversations with people who were advising me, oh, don't just put what out, just doesn't matter. Like the base doesn't have to be 100% all organic olive oil. Just like put in some palm oil. I'm like, no, that's not what we stand. Like we are not doing that. That's not what we stand for. And I don't care if it takes longer and it's more expensive and it's harder. Being in integrity with the product that I put out is
Yeah.
so important. And I don't want to sacrifice and take shortcuts because that's honestly what the industry has done for so many years. And look at where we are. Now's the radical shift to slow production and quality production.
Yes.
Because that is what helps people. Those are the products that really help people thrive.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And that's where you also have that alignment piece. If you
Hmm.
start to cut corners or just use cheaper ingredients,
Yes.
or you start to disrespect your integrity and your alignment, it chips away at the energetic quality of your creation.
Right.
And not everybody's going to feel it, but the true people that will become your ambassadors, your true fans and followers, the people who love your product, they're going to know it. And there are the people that, if you really serve them well, they're just going to get the word out for you and
Yes.
support you on your mission.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
love that word serve, at the end of the day. And I think that, a lot of companies and it's reframing the value proposition of a company too. Like at the end of the day, you're here to serve customers. And,
Yeah.
I really firmly believe that and continue to focus on that. And how do I serve customers, but serve them well, serve them in a way that is mutually beneficial. So, I'd rather us take more time, grow slower, because serving our customers, giving them a product that, is whole and natural and, made from organic ingredients, to me, that's the best way that we can serve our customers.
Yes, and there's um, just what I'm really hearing from this, plus with your journey of this personal story of having eczema and reacting to everything. I mean, anytime I cross someone on the street that smells like Tide,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
thinking,
yeah,
honey, do you know what you're washing your clothes with? Because if you have skin issues, just start there.
yeah, exactly.
Get rid of that. That's so. Just wanted to highlight that I would love for it to become mainstream for people to
And
know that the products you're using are being absorbed on your skin. Sure, like eczema is really bad to have in terms of a reaction. And you're right that it's connected to the gut and heavy metals and the liver and so many other things, food
right,
sensitivities too.
absolutely.
But start with something really simple like what you're using to wash yourself in the shower and your
Yeah.
clothes.
Yes. And I love
Yeah,
that start simple. I think that's the thing. Sometimes it can be daunting, and I talk
yeah,
to people all the time who they feel overwhelmed by, the wellness space. There's so much information. I don't know what products are bad, from a food and from a product's perspective. I'm being told gluten is bad. I'm being told not to eat this, not to do this, soy, blah, like it's a lot of information for people to absorb. But for me, and I love what you said, it's like, what is the next best step? So I have a
yeah,
skin condition. Let me critically analyze what I'm putting on my skin every day.
yeah,
Is it toxic detergent? What am I washing myself with? What am I, scenting myself with? Like all of those things, starting there, starting in chunks. And it kind of goes back to what we said at the beginning of the conversation, being imperfect with it, saying, I know I'm not going to be able to in overnight shift everything, but I can start small. I can start with, this battle and then go
yeah.
to the next thing and then the next thing. And that's the way I have tried to, shift my own health and wellness practices. I'm not perfect. There's things that I
Yeah.
do that probably aren't, like the best. And, I'm always trying to slowly analyze and replace and and edit. Okay, now I know better, so let me do this instead.
Yeah.
And coming from a place of just self-love and kindness, that you won't get it all right on the first run at all.
That's beautiful. And I find often what stops people or the resistance that builds up or the overwhelm is a reaction of the brain that's thinking, oh, it's like, oh no, like one more thing, or
Yes,
it's too much to do. But not buying into that state of mind is key because
agreed.
it's actually not that complicated when you look back, but it looks complicated if there's a whole
Right.
bunch of information. So you're talking about stepping back and analyzing. That's such a practical, beautiful advice, but also not buying into the state of mind that as soon as we go,
Right.
with the
Right.
hand and like just being like overwhelmed and
Yes.
like, can't even think of doing that. First of all, it just points to an energy in the moment that we're maybe already too tired and already too overwhelmed because there are such simple things that we can do. And, I keep thinking about mothers who have no choice, mothers with babies that have eczema, which is awful,
Yes. Yeah.
awful,
Yeah.
but they have no choice but to actually take this into their own hands and find solutions because their babies are suffering. So they, suddenly overwhelm is gone because gotta heal that baby.
Exactly. Exactly. When you have
Yeah.
to do it, you do it. You get it
Yeah.
done, you figure it out, and I totally agree. Like it is, we've been so conditioned for instant gratification and the ease, the path of least resistance.
Mhm.
And it's easy to just grab whatever and not really own the decision that you're making when you purchase something. The money that you use to purchase something is energetic. It
Yes.
speaks volumes about kind of your priorities and what's meaningful to you, how you're that money, the way that it flows into the world, the type of workers that you're supporting, all of that stuff. And just thinking about that, I think about that a lot when I purchase things. It's like, okay, what am I supporting?
Yeah.
And what statement is this making? And knowing that, especially now, I think it's become easier and easier, just even the last 15 years, it's, we're such a different place in terms of health and wellness. And the availability of options. So,
Yeah.
finding different ways to say, okay, I could choose this, but actually this is next to that on the shelf. And, hey, look, this company is, supporting, sustainable wages, and the ingredients I can pronounce. If I were to just shift to this, what impact would that have on me, from a health and wellness perspective, but also on the world by that buying decision. And I don't think we realize how much power we have in the dollars that we invest. It is the most powerful, the collective action,
Yeah.
of us saying, hey, we're not going to take these, we're not going to take this anymore.
Yeah.
We're not buying these products anymore.
Yeah.
We're not doing it. We're the ones that are supporting the ecosystem of, ingredients that are unsavory. And we have so much power in our dollars to stop supporting that.
I so agree with you. I talk about that all the time on the podcast. I remind
Right.
people that the brands they support can make a huge difference, not only for their health, but for the brands that deserve our support. And I also am very vocal about breaking that old belief or that old paradigm that it costs more money
Yes.
to invest in better, greener, cleaner, non-toxic products, organic food. I I know that it can demand that you be a little more creative with maybe how you cook and the ingredients that you choose. If the
Right.
red pepper is going to be $6, don't buy the red pepper.
Right.
Like buy another organic ingredient that makes sense. And then, side note, I had a huge rant on one of the beginning of the podcast because there's always a guest that's going to bring up that, it's hard because organic food is not very affordable, and I'm like, wait a minute, people need to demand to
Yes.
their grocery
Yes.
store. So
Yes.
it's expensive because the grocery stores are not making big enough purchases to
Exactly.
support local farmers that are organic. Like they also need to make an effort, but they're not going to do it unless you tell them.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
if you
Couldn't
don't
agree
like
more.
the organic section because it's this tiny little section and the rest is all pesticide, herbicide, and GMOs, then you have to walk up to the manager and say, hey, like I demand
Right.
to have healthy food for myself
Right.
and my family. And
Exactly.
everybody can do that. You can do it with a
Exactly.
smile, you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly. 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 And I studied economics. It's, what in school, and, the old laws of supply and demand, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and we have the power to demand. I look at what's happening in the news right now with GameStop, and, the whole crazy thing in the US with the stock market, and people saying, no, the way that this game is played is not conducive to most people. So we're actually going to shift our money to change the game. Crazy disruption that's happening right now. What if
Ooh,
we did the same thing with food? What if we did the same thing with the beauty products? Like, no, we actually making the choice not to purchase these things. And a lot of times, I don't think we realize that we've been groomed to get trapped into this, I'll call it the cult of consumerism, that you
yes.
you need this, that, and the other, you need all these things, you need 10 different products, when actually you don't. So it's, I'm in a place in my life, especially where I would rather buy less things, but the things I buy are of quality, versus a bunch of stuff. That's
Teju, oh my God. I so hear that. And you know what I realized for someone who I thought I had the consciousness for this, in the last year, I realized way too many Amazon boxes made it
yes,
to. And you
yes,
know what, how it started to annoy me? I had to break down all these freaking boxes to
right,
recycle them. And
right,
then, first of all, I want to reuse. I have so many boxes stored in my
right,
basement now. But then I started to dig deeper into Amazon and how the Amazon is dominating right now, and a lot of
yeah,
small businesses are suffering.
right,
So now I'm thinking there's so many things I could still get at Amazon. I refuse to. If I
right,
really don't have to, I'm not buying from Amazon. Thank you very
right,
much.
right, right.
Also, I would love to know what your initiatives are going to be on that. Just too much plastic. Like here in Quebec and in Canada, we've been lied to when it
Right,
comes to recycling.
right,
A lot of things are just not being recycled. And I just have too much plastic. Like I'm looking for, so now I bring always the same bottles. I go to that
right,
local store, I get
right,
them filled. I have like my all the different cleansers, which is like a derivative of one concentrate,
right,
really. And
right,
it's eco and it's more organic. And
right.
And I've just started to compile all the things like the empty bottles. And what a beautiful opportunity to shift what we purchase, to bring our
Agreed.
consciousness. I'm 100% with you on our money, even if it's not billions of dollars. Like my money has power and I vote with my
Yes.
money and I choose to invest in brands that share my own values.
Right.
And if
Right.
they don't, I'm so vocal about it. Like I'll call up a company and say like, why do you have that ingredient in here? Like I needed
I
this,
love that. I love that you
but
do
you
that.
put that ingredient nonstop. So now I'm going to have to create it. I'm going to have to create a sulfur cream that kills Demodex mites,
Right.
which is a problem in rosacea because that guy from China has put petroleum in his cream.
Oh,
It's like, what
no.
are you doing?
Yeah. No,
But
no,
then
we
I
can't
have to
have this.
stop, like, stop calling companies, just focus.
I love that you
Anyway,
call
that's
that's
me.
awesome. That is awesome. More and more people, the more that we can do that and hold companies accountable, and look for more sustain. I know for us right now, for Clean Rebellion, that's the biggest, like our biggest initiative. So we've developed the product. We're using recycle, and I agree with you. The myth of recycling. So we're using recyclable PET bottles right now. And the next step for us is, okay, how could we do even better? And that's, our company mantra. How can we do even better? So what are other ways to package this? Let's also offer a refillable, option because the
Yeah.
bottles that we're using
Yeah.
and the reason it's packaged the way it is so that they can be reused.
Yeah.
We want people to look at the cool affirmations all the time. So
Yeah.
that's our next, I'll say rodeo as a company is,
Yeah.
okay, how can we make this even more sustainable? And then there's been some really cool innovation with the soap, especially soap with essential oils. Making sure that the packaging is non-slip, just from a liability perspective, but then also so that the essential oils don't eat into the bottle.
Yes.
That's the other thing that I've been, scratching my head and spending a ton of time testing packaging and figuring out that's our next rodeo is how can we pack this, in a way that is, kind of more eco-friendly and sustainable other than the recyclable bottles that we're already using,
Yeah.
constantly wanting to get better, that continuous improvement, that's the mindset
I love
that
that.
we've taken into this. And, I love the feedback that we get. People are actually sending me, oh, hey, have you seen this packaging or do you want to try this? And I love that. I love, I love that. I'm like,
I love that you love that.
yeah.
I love that you're not thinking, oh, no, leave me alone. It's like, so they're helping you with your work.
Yeah, to me, it's the curiosity. Oh, how interesting. I didn't know, I didn't know that, there's people who are exposed to, 10 times, the things that I am, and I want to learn constantly from others. So I think that's, how can we get better? How can we do more? How can we, help, the environment, our planet, help other people more? And like
Yeah.
taking that as a challenge, like as a life
Oh,
challenge is really,
yeah.
really important.
I love that. So I'm thinking just practically, and again, like I'm going to make some phone calls, but there's this petite épicerie, a small food store here that it's all organic and bio, and they've been in the game for the longest time. And
Right.
I remember 2 summers ago, the owner back then was outside with piles and piles of recyclable trash. And I was like, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm compiling everything that we were using because they're refilling a lot of stuff. Like everything is vrac, everything is bulk,
Right, right,
or most of it, like nuts and seeds
right.
and shampoo, like most of their stuff. And she says, and yet there's still a lot of things I need to recycle and send to the proper facilities. So she's outside with her bags of trash and she's taking note of everything. And she is just amazing, this woman, on the work that she's doing. But I've always told her, I don't like your soap. Like she needs your Clean Rebellion soap that actually smells good, because that's another issue. You talked about the perfume or the fake
Yes.
essential oils. They're awful. So they can have like a clean soap or what they say is a non-toxic soap, but I'm not convinced that that smell is not synthetic, and I don't want to have
Mm.
that on. So they have setups where you can go and refill your bottle. And now I'm
Ah.
going to propose that they they reach out to you and they,
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Thank you
yeah,
so much for thinking of us. That would be, I mean, any way we could help. And I love that was the other thing, like getting into refillable, especially now, With COVID, it's been odd with retail, and a lot of places shutting down, but
Yeah.
that's been one of my, I love that we're talking on this. One of my biggest goals is like, how can we, even wholesale, just bulk the soap,
Yes.
so that, people can go in and refill.
Yeah.
That's my vision. And, we kind of set up, um, kind of a kiosk, for lack of, or like, kind of like
Yes.
peanut butter, where you can self grind. I always
Yeah.
look at that as a cool model. And when I
Yes.
first started Clean Rebellion, it's like, okay, in the interim, we're going to be direct to consumer e-com. Like, how do we ship to people?
Okay.
But wouldn't that be amazing if we were able to have like a same kind of thing?
I just want to know before we wrap up the conversation, like what's the future of Clean Rebellion? Like any new products you want to develop or like what's next?
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is roll out a few more scents. So we went and we asked our audience what they would like, and we heard loud and clear, people love lavender and rose, and, so how can we continue to use natural plant-based extracts to make really fun scents, and maybe mixing a couple of them and, creating our own proprietary blends.
Hmm.
And I love the scenting process. I love, personally for me, like one of the fun things in this journey was just learning about essential oils and
Yeah.
the vibration. I didn't know, going into this, like something like rose, how high rose in terms of an essential oil, that the vibration of rose in itself.
Yeah.
So I've been, continuing to do more research on, what are those essential oils that are natural, have high vibration, that can really heal people. And then how
Yes.
can we mix them in a way that's, a little bit different and still fun and floral and, fruity, but all natural. So that's the next. So I've been working with our lab and lab myself and tinkering and, mixing up stuff to figure out, what are the next 3 scents that we want to roll out. Um,
Nice.
and then new products. So, I'm a data-driven marketer, by trade. So I'm always collecting data and doing market research. So we just went through a big market research study to figure out what are the products that people want. What does our customer base want? And I heard a ton of things, from cream to feminine hygiene products that are natural and sustainable,
Ooh.
which I thought was really interesting and ranked incredibly high in our market research.
Wow.
Uh, so my next, we'll say, adventure, I'll put it, will be figuring out and developing those things to serve our customers. The feminine hygiene thing to me was really interesting, because I think about that space, and there's one company which I'm totally blanking on the name, that's kind of starting to do that I know of, that's starting to like really get traction. But when you think about it, when I go into the grocery store, I go into like a Target or something like that. Most of the feminine hygiene products are like old school, bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah.
And there's so much opportunity in that space. So,
Yes. I've seen that too on the Beauty Independent. Do you follow
yes,
Beauty?
yes, 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 yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So a few companies were featured recently that I thought was interesting.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Well, I just wanted to say that it's been an amazing honor to speak to you. You're so inspiring.
Thank
I
you.
love your energy. I love how you think. I you cannot not be just amazing successful like for
Thank
like
you.
someone with your kind of personality. You're going to create something amazing, and I'm going to be following closely. Yesterday I took a bath with I Am Free.
Oh, yay.
Yes, and I just love the feeling of your soap, and I love the bubbles that it created, and I love your branding, by the way. Again, people are going to go to your website, cleanrebellion.com, and you're on Instagram. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I love what you're up to. Thank you,
Thank
Teju.
you. Thank you so much. It's been such an honor and a pleasure. And I love all that you're doing. And thank you for being such a inspiring force,
Thank you.
and just enlightening everyone, and, holding space for these types of conversations. I'm
Oh,
incredibly grateful.
thank you.